All righty, thanks for coming, everybody. Even in this crazy weather day. My name's Zach. I'm a librarian here at the library. And before we start events, I usually like to share that we're able to offer programs like this thanks to the generosity of our donors and also the vibrant creative community here on the island. Just curious, how many of you are already familiar with Paul and his work? I had the sense. I'll save you my usual spiel. Suffice to say, we're really proud to have Paul's work here in the library. We're really happy to have him here tonight. And I'll hand things over to Paul Weiss.
Well, in this very busy life we all have, I figure I have to do something special just to get together with a few friends. But we have some people out there, hopefully. There may all be a few other friends.
Absolutely.
Hi there. Thank you for coming. I know some of you have come fresh from really hard work on this hottest of all days, I guess in many years. We've had two really very hot days leading up to this solstice. And it's also easy, the solstice anyways kind of becomes a crossover line where it's hard to remember, oh, just a little while ago, it was the most beautiful spring we've had in so long. And spring is so tender and innocent. I think of spring, and I've written of spring, it's like this young, innocent child that's just discovering and coming into bloom. And at some point it becomes this adult. All those things that are just birthing and in process and revealing themselves suddenly take on a solid form of adulthood called summer. And now they're just what they are. And, and it's like we can easily lose that magic that we have in spring, but summer has its own springs. So anyway, I thought I would begin with a few odes combined to spring, so we can remember what we've just been through and still carry inside of us. And we'll throw in a little acknowledgement to summer as well, and then a couple of things regarding the solstice. You all know who the Green Man is, right? The Green Man rustles his feathery gown, and the Green Lady laughs. Perhaps one day they'll tire of this promenade, like mortals might who have seen it all. But this is a world without age, and today she shakes her blossomed necklace and adjusts her violet brooch, and she takes his arm, as in the days of courtship, and they strut and they skip under the great blue haze, and the Green Man rustles his feathery gown, and the Green Lady laughs. The lilacs unfold their new spring buds into the passing world. Theirs is not to promote or withhold, only to blossom and to praise over and over again in disregard of death, eternal innocence. O spring, thou gentlest me with thy frothy waving, thy bending and nodding, thy careless peeping. Couldst thou not my heart-worn caring coddle with fresh-sprung greening, lifting me like one dead set on dying onto thy peerless bank? O spring, thou gentlest me with thy frothy waving, thy bending and nodding, thy careless peeping. Couldst thou not my heart-worn caring coddle with fresh-sprung greening, lifting me like one dead set on drowning onto thy peerless bank? Let words be the celebration of the thing. If not, we're better left unsaid, unsought for. Better the tongue be dumb, be done with, wasted, dead. better the words be gone. Who can? Can you magnify the meaning of the thing at hand, the color, vast simplicity and ring of right now being? Who can improve upon the handling of the thing, or of the thing intractable, unmanageable spring? What more then than this witnessing? What more then than this joyful and abandoned, blossoming, unsaid, unsought for, encumbered nowhere? No. Can you then? Who then? Me? What? When? Be clearer when not dumb. Who is to come? Pause. Who is to come? Oh dear me. I've never lost this line, but bear with me. Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll rewind the wheel and see what happens. Who then? Me? What? When? Be clearer when not dumb. Who is to come? Bleh. Did you ever have a disc like that? I had it as backup, but I left it at home. Who is to come? Okay, look, I was just giving you guys a chance to figure it out. Who is to come can give better accounting than the thing itself, the thing that is the celebration of the thing. Who can depict and not detract? Who can define and not deform? Who cannot distract from bliss, which is the being of the thing? Why then do we sound our horn? Certain, there is one. Unborn then, born then. Certain it is her, round, ringing, inspires us, excites us to song. Her beauty fosters longing in us, fires us to be what wish would burst us, yearning to be heard as she is heard, and be one song. What then gift is given us? What hope betrayed us? Or are we then created for it? Hope, pray, this reaching will enliven us, awake us, take us, and hold us still. Stay. All is the proof of it. Share then, be then, in the doing of it. Let not fear's faintness or mind's flat fairy tales turn you away from wooing it, away from being the celebration of it. Be the witness, be the welcome, be the welding of it by stick and gong, by faith and fire and dance. Offer your words, no, not in lieu of it, but let words be the celebration of the thing. Or better the heart be dumb, or better the wait be long. Be then, but unbecome. Dare then to sing one thing. Dare then to sing one thing, to praise all being, the self-arising song. The still and flowing spring. The nest from which all beauty takes its wing. And let words be the celebration of the thing. Thank you for bearing with me through those gaps. Okay. I have a friend who sent me an email and said, you know how much I enjoy coming to your readings when I can, but I have to say something to you. He said, you have a tendency to do something that's really harsh. She said, you read all these poems that open us up, and then you hit us with some kind of dark thing about the suffering and the tragedy and the other side of, and we're not ready. It's like, oh my God. He says, please don't do that this time. We have enough. Just gift us. It's spring. There's enough going on in the world. Just give us something. And I looked down at the list of poems I had assembled and said, you know, she's right. That's exactly what I was going to do. And I said, okay, so I've softened it. But still, you have to bring in that dark a little bit. But I'm going to be very mindful and very gentle with it. And I want to really take some time because, you know, the thing that's really with us right now, aside from, as always, the state of the world, is just, is spring, is summer, is the weather. Let me do, I want to do a summer poem, and then I want to talk about the sun a little bit, to be appropriate, and the solstice. This poem is called, it's an old poem called, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day? And I had written the poem, and it needed a title. And I said, this would work. And I said, you know, it's not been used for a very long time. I don't think anybody's going to pick it up. It's got definitely public domain. So it's now, Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day? Something about you moves me to think of you sweetly. Something happily alive is moving. Some discreetly welcoming wind distracts and soothes me. Must I say exactly? If you knew how happy it made me to praise you, you would not protest that my mind is hazy to paint you rosy. If seeing is spring and summer makes song so easy, must I say I'm sorry? The heart finds freedom when it's freely given. Beyond examination, it says this thing here is worth all loving. Dearly, you are a branch that gives my heart roosting. Must I say it clearly? There was one winter when what seemed to be up for me, the only poems I wrote, it was several winters ago, and I think it was during the beginning of COVID, perhaps. And there wasn't a lot coming up poetically, but I would stand at my window at least once a day or at the end of the day and really develop this relationship to the sun. And I found myself writing sun poems, poems to the sun. And I think, you know, again, the sun has been with us so truly wonderfully this last few days and through the spring and everything else. And I really wanted to just acknowledge the sun, so it's not just the thing that is kept us sweaty and dirty today, but something that is continually, as we well know, nourishing us not only with warmth, but with mystery. Right? So I'm just going to read, I have a whole little selection of poems called sun poems from that winter. And I'm just going to read 3 of them. Maybe 4. And this one is called To the Sun. There is fire in your belly and in mine. Rivers flow from your heart to which you yield a gentle ear. You have learned to radiate beyond all doubt. Allow me to speak on your behalf. Friend, the sun is a world. It is terraced with fields of ripe intent. It is honeycombed with orchards of ripe tears. Red solar disk. Deer, cougar, chickadee, we've all been known to stare at the looming disk of the setting sun. All been known to pause for the royal mystery, savor the disturbing beauty, know instinctively of our secret frailty. A single recognition stirs us a single recognition stirs us according to our kind. We are not alone. The prayer to the sun. Prayer to the sun. You are the infused power in all living things. You give us breakfast and drive our cars. We are your children. This is your house, your show. I'm sorry that we do not understand how to be in this world, that we broke the furniture and dug up the lawn, that we pulled up the floor and sold the planks to the lowest bidder, that we left on the gas and left the water running, that we poisoned the well, that we stripped the gold and thought the apples on the altar were for us, that we turned away your children from the land. I am writing this apology because, guilty or not, I want to stand in your light. I have no place else to stand. If I have failed you, then at least let me remember you. Let me savor and be chastened by each dawning of the day, held in your breath. Let your sunset call me home. Let me be true even at this last hour. And if we are all going down, and if the work of my hands is too little and too late, then in whatever form, let me start again in my soul. And then this afternoon, of course, and then after all that sun is starting to blow and threaten a thunderstorm. And it reminded me again of another solstice in which it was blowing and raining some years back, which I captured somewhere in this book, this poem. Let's see. Let me see. Okay, this is on the evening of the solstice. It rained and it blew all day with intermittent force. And in the evening, we retired early to our tent in the lower meadow. The late light diffusing through the white walls, the red fly, and the blue tarp overhead. And in the evening, we retired to our tent in the lower meadow. The late light diffusing through the white walls, the red fly, and the blue tarp overhead. And the wind picked up and drove the splattering rain and tried to lift us from the earth. We lay there in the flap and shudder of white and red and blue and rain and wind. "We are inside a prayer flag," she said. And the rain was getting ready to last 1,000 years. Some people can just speak one sentence, right? That's worth 1,000 poems. We are inside a prayer flag. Well, I have to tell you a story. So much can be captured in poems, but of course, so much can't be. And I would have to say that just about the most remarkable experience of my life, the most thrilling, it'll speak for itself, I could never put into a poem. It was something I would have wanted to communicate to everybody, and I could not reduce it to a poem. I could not enlarge it to a poem. It was just its own thing. And so I'm just going to tell you the story. It'll have to be its own poem. So this will just be my prose accounting. But I think we have full moon on this solstice too. And one of the last times we had a full moon on the solstice, so I don't know, 8-10 years ago, I was, a friend who lives in Monroe and has beautiful land and a lot of woods behind that land. And I know those woods very well, and I've written about them a lot. But this was the solstice. She had been doing a solstice festival with her friends. And then I came by late, and we were up by the fire, which was on the hill, in a fire circle, the top of her hill, above her pasture, with the woods right behind us. And I've been through those woods a lot. They have so much. They have streams. They have a kind of a swamp had herons resting in it. So many things. I knew those woods very well. I stayed in them a lot. But here we're sitting now by the fire, and it's now 11 o'clock maybe on the night of the solstice, full moon, approaching midnight. And as we're sitting there, feeding the fire, I hear a sound I've never heard before and that I can't account for. It was clearly not machinery, a mechanical sound, but there was nothing biological I knew that could make it. And the sound went like this. It was like a ghost story. It was coming out of the woods, loud. I mean, it was loud enough to fill the whole woods. Sitting by the fire, right? Full moon. And I timed it. It was 8-second intervals, and it lasted 8 seconds with 8 seconds between. And that was the pattern over and over again. And the images that went through my mind, it was either a giant swarm of killer bees or really a dragon that was approaching to consume the whole forest and everything around it. That dragon image was like really strong. It was nothing that I could relate to biologically to understand what was going on. It's just supernatural, overwhelming. And so a little, disease making. And it kept coming and getting louder and louder. It sounds like a story. Whoa. So, of course, the last thing you want to do is walk towards it. So I said, we got to go in there. Find out what that is. I said, it could be meaning to kill me, but I trust those woods, and it's not likely. And I need to know what's going on. So even though it was a full moon night, the woods under the canopy was really dark. Dark enough that you had to kind of go slowly like this. And so the two of us start walking into the woods towards the sound. Not quite sure where it is or where we're going. And it was only after we were in a little ways that I could say, it does seem to be coming from the swamp. And so we started walking that way, and the sound indeed was getting louder. And I said, the swamp is filled with frogs and this and that, but the frogs can't do that. And then we could hear, as we got closer, we could hear distinct frogs going, ribbit, ribbit. And so it wasn't that. And then we'd hear that sound. And it was only as we began to get very close to the swamp that I could discern something more precise about that sound. And the sound went like this. Ribbit, 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 ribbit. Whoa. Ribbit, ribbit. Somehow the frogs were collaborating in doing a sound that I don't know, they're incapable of making, but it did seem like they would be building and doing this, and then as they came down, they would become distinct again. They were joining and then becoming distinct. So this was so magical. And we went to the edge of the swamp, and there was this beautiful log that had been stripped bare. So it was like a white log that was hanging over the swamp. And so here we are sitting on a white log overhanging the swamp in the full moon on the night of the solstice, approaching midnight, listening to the frogs in this incredible chorus that is virtually impossible to understand. if you can figure out how to write a poem about that, it would be a travesty. So I can only have to tell the story. And so we stayed there for a long time, in the moonlight, midnight, the solstice, full moon, listening to the frogs inquire. So I said, I have to find out about this. Is this something that frogs do? Is it possible do they do this on the solstice? Do they do this only on the full moon on the solstice? Do they do this only as they approach midnight? I started investigating. What do frogs do? I spoke to friends who were naturalists, knew animals. They said, no, there's no way frogs can't do that. And then I saw something online that said, frogs in the full moon or something. And all it said was, yeah, they bellow a lot and they croak a lot in the full moon. Nobody made any reference to this sound. I've never had it described or understood by anybody else. It was just a gift that was given to me on that night of the solstice, the full moon, just like tonight. And so I had to share it with you.
Thank you.
So as I looked at the poems that I basically had assembled and had left when you take away the darkest ones, and even the darkest ones, I realized the theme running through these several poems, more poems that I want to share, are really about fully being here. About showing up, really bringing ourselves, whether there's suffering in the world, whether there's joy in the world, showing up with our full consciousness and our full compassion. And that's the thread that I think runs through and ties everything else together. Okay, I'm going to read one more poem about praise. Okay, I thought I had. Okay. The praise. And this kind of sets up, we can talk about the light, we can talk about the dark, but the fact that we talk about them at all is a way of praising them, that we give our attention, that we write a poem. So this says, poetry is praise. Even in the darkest moment, even in our most negative refrain, the things we pause to write about are praised by the time we take to feel, to suffer, to grapple, or to exult. We are courting this moment of being, saying, it is not enough to love you, but I must write my love song now so all can hear, so that my tears may add to the final sum of beauty, so that the gods may hear me sing that I was alive this moment, and you were too. Poetry is praise. And so the inarticulate finds its own articulate face in the mirror. Being must have its bard. To hear as a matter of song that it has been seen and felt and heard, from the warm welcome of the orange leaves to the cold abyss we fear at the heart of life. Even the exile, bereft of every home, even the lovelorn, even the boxer staggering to fallen knees, says, this is the beauty I came here to find. The invitation. Occasionally put on an unsightly second pair of glasses to bolster my ability to read this. Okay. Everything in the universe. Don't be distracted. I'll take them off. Listen. Everything in the, I don't know, maybe it's a failing. Everything in the universe is asking us to be right here. To greet with the deliberate touch and the deliberate voice of one who can be trusted to stay. To hold each thing as the mirrored embrace of jeweled space, and to set down our satchel and come back to the wedding feast, which we abandoned as a reckless groom. Letting the door slam behind, we imagined ourselves confirmed by 1,000 destinies, awaiting in 1,000 ports that recalled our biography, until, ragged at dusk, we hear the first faint, sweet beckoning of the flute, the laughter of the accordion that terrified us once, and we are led to where our old guests, full of feasting, have been waiting with patient inevitability for our feet to resume their place in the circle of dancers. And the bride, taking our face in her hands, turns our large eyes tenderly to hers and says, "Will you stay with me now?" There was never another world than this. The blaze. When you ask, what is this? This cataract of light that is the world. Ask it from the heart. Allow the naked prayer of your unknowing to lean like a celebrant into each occasion of the sense, never withholding your own death. What else can you want? When you see the light in others, let it strip you of the old skin of your old assumptions. And if you withdraw or turn away, let it be only in that first moment of their extraordinary brightness. Then turn back and pour your soul into that light. You can circle forever in the self-made shadow of your own wings and never behold how sunlight blazes them with gold. Jerry Seinfeld once said, poetry reading is like bad stand-up comedy. Well, this is called The Comedian. Dear friend, I would like to exchange my consciousness with yours, only to find our sand paintings smoothed and erased by the same sea. Take my hand as we are drawn again into the same undertow, cast out again onto the same moment, same gray sky. This body is a wish-fulfilling gem. I would wish for you to know it just a little. I would like to hear your laughter in the surf. It's never new, never old. This gray morning of melting snow, spring in the tundra, noisy back streets of Istanbul, paddling home on the Orinoco, picking the dump outside of Bangalore, this heartache of empty space. This body temple has no walls. Consciousness burns through the fat on the frying pan till all is cast iron, ring of pure ore. This belly and this brain are warmth rising from another star. The way the mind arranges things, it's just an exercise in creating a world. There's no real truth in it. Imagine one thing separate from another, distributed in space. The illusion of a master set designer. This morning's glimpse behind the set. How sweet. There's the producer eating a sandwich, but no need to blow the whistle. The cops shrewdly mailed out free name tags to all the bank robbers, who shrewdly decided not to wear them. You find something friendly in all of this? So many lives, one diarist leaving no one out. Go ahead, take an hour. It's Saturday. You reach for a book of poetry, poems from everywhere, with the same careful notation, same itch of perception, same commedia dell'arte in every heart. I love to read my poetry out loud. I want to exchange my consciousness with yours. I want to tell a joke in every language. Poetry, says Jerry Seinfeld, is bad stand-up comedy. But we don't need those laugh lines anymore. The wide open door of the senses is purity itself. Okay. Got to pull things together here. Okay, I'm gonna do 3 or 4 more. Oh, it's in the other one. I'm gonna bring another book over. See? Nope, it's here. Sorry. So this is a little gentle. I've spared us some of the dark examples, but here's a little gentle reminder, that we're going to encounter darkness, and we need to welcome it in. We need to feel our own ground as we do that. Let it come to our ground. That's so key, and so much of my work. We have our own ground to welcome in the darkness, and we have something to offer it that way. Welcome in the dark. How many of you know who Juan Valdez is? It's one of the problems of aging is you start making references to things that people no longer know. And in the 60s, I guess, 50s and 60s, Juan Valdez was the what do you call it? It was the symbol, the image for Colombian coffee. When Colombian coffee would, on the air, you saw this guy coming up the hillside with his burro. Yeah. And there was playing this nice music in the background. It is Juan Valdez, gathers all this wonder. You remember it now? That's Juan Valdez, Colombian coffee. And very idyllic, very beautiful, Juan Valdez. Okay, he shows up in this. It is important to welcome in the dark. Important to keep your mirrors and your enemies close. Important that they drink your wine. You will say, this is a piece my daughter has been practicing a short time, but there is a delicacy in her understanding for one so young. Don't you think? Later she will ask, who are those men, Daddy? Do you know them from work? No, honey, I know them from the radio, but they were hungry and thirsty. Did they behave themselves with you? It is important to welcome in the dark. The heavy dampness seeps in through your door before the light. But morning is better than nothing. You will carry your daughter down street on your shoulders. She will smile to the men at the locksmiths and the bagel shop. Why are there so many men, she says. Where are all the mommies? Oh, all the mommies have gone to the Catskills on a grant. They need a month's retreat. Your daddy has contributed to a fund to bus up all the refugee mommies. The air has no boundaries. It is important to welcome in the dark. We breathe in molecules from Caligula, Columbus, Hernando Cortez, and the Arawak, who are always with us. From our modern politicians, the air may not have reached us yet, stuck under an inversion layer downtown or hovering in an updraft over the South Atlantic. Relax, it is done. It is important to welcome in the dark. It has seeped in with the morning air. We are its faithful courtiers. It furnishes our homes and cars, perfects our phones, protects our streets. It buys up water and pollutes our wells. Relax. You might die trying to protect your lonely spring. But the dark is made of molecules of light. Our tears, likewise. There is something that sparks and tries to get it right. It is important to welcome in the dark. My daughter is so earnest as she gets her fingers right, as gentle as Schubert on his best summer night. And coffee takes care of so many things. I want to invite Juan Valdez into my home. And his sons, and maybe theirs, and maybe his granddaughter with face so bright. They will bring instruments and I will offer them chairs. My daughter plays a little Latin tune she's taught herself. And Simon and Garfunkel with their Incan plaint. They'd rather be a hammer than a nail. Right? They'd rather be a forest than a street. Yes, they would. They'd rather feel the earth beneath their feet, or that every child would have enough to eat, not fear, nor have their houses bombed, nor die from diarrhea in the desert heat. It's Saturday. We'll pick up her best friend and all go dancing through the city park. Children on seesaws and skateboards, stately swans. The dew still lingers on the shady grass. And with Juan Valdez, I talk of many things. His mother's mothers farmed those fields before the coffee came. The ocean islands danced before there ever was a thought of sugarcane. His granddaughter likes to sing. Her mother taught her like a bird in spring. And Juan Valdez surveys the passing town. A man gets parted from his ground, he says. He gives the world its saddest sound. A radio is calling from the nearest bench. A dog begins to bark. The radio does not speak like a friend. It says the men are at it once again. That's just the way it is, says Juan Valdez. I'd rather be a sparrow than a snail. That's just me speaking as a man. The hammers are as captive as the nails, but there's nothing like a sunny day with friends, a growing season without drought or too much rain. Nothing stronger or more reckless than the human heart. We keep our sorrows and our killers close. We breathe the air. We pray. We share our wine. We welcome in the dark. Imagine if I had read several of them. So, again, to my mind, I mean, the great freedom and the great joy, it's not like, one level of joy comes when everything is easy and joyful and toujours gay and all that. One level of happiness. Another comes from recognizing our own capacity, right, to be here for life. The delight, that reminds me, do I have it? Yes, very key. Okay, I'll set you aside, excuse me. Delight, our capacity. There's a delight we experience that has nothing to do with as I say, the blood in the streets, etc. It has nothing to do with the things that make us easily happy. It comes from discovering in those moments something deeper about ourselves. That is the truth of us. That is the source of what we're doing here, the source of our delight. And this is a poem called I Am Wanting That Delight for You. I want this delight for you. This kind of, maybe this is an answer to the earlier one. It's very light. Put these on to delight you. There is a delight, intrinsic, but hard wrought, pressed from the berries of the briar, which is prolific at these heights, but frequently ignored and gathered at no cost, save all that the world has taught us to desire. There is a delight that will never turn away from the blood in the streets, the endless day of our racial night, dark with the degradation of the daily news and the violent squandering of the human heart. But there is this delight, even dumbfounded at the vista of its own ascent and the seeming impossibility that another can find his way here. The awe that our footsteps turn this way at all, and the dismay that for those who come after, the trailheads could not possibly stay clear. And still, there are new hikers coming every year. There is a delight that grows in its insistency amid the falling towers of hope and fear, the culling of the dragon's knife. A delight that is released into the hands of timelessness within the sweat and rubble of an imperfect life. There is a delight that is your lungs' true air, distilled from your last sigh, sweetened on your own lips, lit on the wick of your profoundest care, the delight that has secretly carried us here. I am wanting this delight for you. I want you to find the string unrolled on this journey by those who have come before. I want you to find my hand extending in the labyrinth and the opening and the hedge door. I want you to walk on me as on the ground of your own confidence, to find that vast and intimate terrain that opens in the headlights of your own compassion. To know beyond doubt that what you are is the way you have longed to find, the way you have always walked, the love you have wished to be. And to hear me whistling far down this highway of transparency, where my delight is just to serve as road crew on the freeway of your ecstasy, shoveling crushed stone and smoothing out all distance and all time, so that right here, where all life begins and ends, we may yet watch the same setting sun, the same rising moon. One or two more. This is the platform of the real. This is called On the Platform of the Real. This is the platform of the real, the veranda of the ancestors, our ancient way of going, our love knot with the earth. We are the empty sky of service, facing neither in nor out, the body of sacrifice, composting as it goes. the simple companionship, the simple walk. Why hesitate to take the other step? There are no secret hearts, no secret hurts. We know them all. We play the fools, but cover for each other. Still, there is a cycle to the dance, a spring's intent and autumn's restlessness. However obvious the moon's bright face, its shadowed mystery grows never less. At last, each host becomes a guest. The tray of canopies, whatever may be left, is set down or handed on. And we excuse ourselves a moment and walk out the back door into naked night. An ear to earth's last whisper, and sail on to where the body, burning without light, opens its secret storehouse in the dark. These last two were both written down the road from where I was living for so many years, the edge of the, on and at the edge of the great Northeast Marsh. I spent many wonderful times kayaking on and cranberrying in the days when there were cranberries there. Actually, they disappeared. Different ecology took over. But this poem is called, the first of two is called At the Edge of the Great Marsh. On the late afternoon marsh, a sea of reed grass trembles in the least breeze. This is the pregnant hush of a great voice. This is the language of the slow. Here in the awake world is a mutual respect. The grasses and their witness are of one intelligence. The mosquitoes nod and give safe passage. We are each of the other. Only this silent hearing begins. Only this slow, the earth moves. There is no forbidden door, and yet we do not seek admittance. We do not bow in entry before the great open. There is a community as vast and intimate as space, and we are its lost children. I have come back to my home by the great pine at the edge of the great marsh. Lone spider threads glisten silver in the late sun, like slender streaks of moonlight. All share one tremulous anticipation as sun paints the marsh from descending angles, and the air grows cool. All share one tremulous anticipation as sun paints the marsh from descending angles, and the air grows cool. The great mother bear is coming in her dark robes to hold close the trembling tribes, to wear them as her own fur, to keep them to the world's end, to be shown through with the new day. This last poem I thought I had right here. Okay. I'll end with a different one since it's not there. The other one's called Northeast Creek. I'll end with the one I skipped over before. And this is called Often as I Sit Here Quietly. Often, when I am sitting quietly, I pick my beloved up and we dance. Lifting her with a strength I had forgotten I still have, we wheel across the body of the year, blowing snow into falling leaves, blowing snow into falling petals into autumn leaves. A great wind that sweeps the empty sky, we send gravitation waves across the fabric of the years. I'm going to start again. Keep going. Often when I am sitting quietly, I pick my beloved up and we dance. Lifting her with a strength I had forgotten I still have, we wheel across the body of the year. Blowing snow into falling petals into autumn leaves, a great wind that sweeps the empty sky, we send gravitation waves across the fabric of the years. Like two circling neutron stars, reversing their slow death dance with a twinkle eye to eye that signals we are more than the inevitable spiral dance of collapse and death. We exist deathlessly in the wide spaces of a greater and laughing imagination, a humor more hidden than the tired inevitabilities. A humor more hidden than the tired inevitabilities of the known dimensions. And now, like some newly detected force that birthed the cosmos, it is these laughter waves that ripple the complacencies of space-time and jostle our delicate instruments and make scientists smile. You and I whirling in our most ancient way, you so beautiful still in your flowing gown and blowing hair, taking me now in these long, slow turns, lighting instrumentation of my body, my beloved of fire, my beloved of great space, sinking at last fully into my arms, into the soft luster of my body's faintly glowing star, so often as I sit here quietly. Thank you. Hope we can do it again soon. Thank you so much for coming.
Our pleasure.
And I'm so personally glad to see each one of you. So thank you.
What a gift to be here.